What's shaking, bacon? In today's video, we're going to discuss if it's okay to have dairy on a carnivore diet. What are the pros? What are the cons? My name's Bruno Panucci. I've been doing a carnivore diet strictly for a year now, just a couple weeks shy of a year actually. And I've been doing it intermittently over about an 8-year period since about 2013. So I've done it, and then I've done it for a few months here, done it for a few months there. I've had some pretty good success whenever I've done it. I went through windows of time where it was just tough to stick to, but I eventually got to the point where it wasn't an issue. And one of the things that made it easier was cheese. So there's some pros to having cheese on a carnivore diet. We'll go into the pros and cons of this. So one of the best parts about it is having dairy on a carnivore diet is really good because if you drink coffee, which most people do, you can still have cream. You don't want to have milk because milk's got a lot of sugar in it. They add sugar to it. It also has a lot of sugar. Cream, high-fat cream, often doesn't have sugar. It's a little bit you can have in your day to make your coffee a little tastier. Most people are gonna have a rough time cutting the sugar out of their coffee. So cream's a great way to go to make the transition a little easier. Another thing is cheese. Cheese is a great way to go because it's easily accessible. You can keep some in your fridge all the time and you can just take little bits here and there. Usually most people like cheese, right? So it's bad enough you're cutting all these other foods out of your diet in the beginning and you haven't felt all the benefits of being carnivore yet, but you are feeling all the restrictions of being carnivore. One of the things that makes that transition easier is having cheese. Some people will like cottage cheese. Some people will have just different types of cheese that they can slice. It's easy to bring with you wherever you go. It helps with cravings, knowing that you can just go and grab some cheese. And I got a big appetite, so I would sit there sometimes and have a lot of cheese. And cheese, one of the benefits of it is in the transition phase, in the first 2 to 3 weeks, sometimes it's not uncommon. People get diarrhea. They don't know why this is a thing. It could be because the body's transitioning, going from a diet with fiber in it to no fiber. It could be because it's a higher fat diet, and I think that's most likely what it is. And it takes the digestive system sometimes a week to 2-3 weeks to balance out. And one of the things you can do with that, since cheese often causes constipation, is balance that out with cheese. If you're getting diarrhea, have some cheese. So it'll kind of manage that a little bit better. So it makes that transition a little easier for people. And one of the best parts about it that I touched on was you can travel with it. You can take it in a little cooler, you can bring it to work, you can have little bricks. It's just something to snack on that's easily accessible. No one's gonna look at you weird if you're just munching on some cheese that you brought in a little container, but they might look at you a little odd if you only have ground beef or you have a steak or you have little bits of meat or chicken or something like that. They'll be like, why are you doing that? So this is where cheese can help in some of these social situations as well, where you may be at work or you're at a social event and you can still have a little bit of this cheese to get you through it. Another bonus actually I should tack on there is cheese is easy to buy. It's easy to just, you're in a crunch, you're hungry, you only have a little window of time where you can eat something. You can go to a grocery store and get a brick of cheese, not fake cheese, not this processed stuff, but real cheese. And it's something that can get you by until you can eat later on. So, and when you're in a pinch and you have nowhere to go to get any food, you always know you can hit a grocery store. There's always a grocery store, and there's always some kind of good quality cheese in a grocery store. So that's something you might want to keep in mind. At this point, we'll talk about some of the negatives though. What are some of the negatives of having cheese in your diet? We all know the cravings can be bad in the beginning of carnivore, and your body's used to having all the sugar all the time. And having all this meat, some people, that's their dream. You tell them they can have meat all the time and they're like, oh, that's great. And they'd be happy with that. Some people are gonna go through a lot of withdrawals though. And that's where it can help get you over the hump. And that can be a difficult transition for people in the first month especially. So knowing that you can have some cheese every now and then is really a good way to go. When you're doing carnivore, well, it's one of those situations where you have to weigh the good with the bad. If you find that cravings are getting to be too much for you because you're doing this strict way of eating and you haven't adapted to being fat adapted yet and cutting all these carbs out of your diet, the temptations can get pretty overwhelming for some people, and that's when they cave. That's when they give in and they go off of this way of eating. So having something to help make it easier and break that cycle of, I'm getting tired of the meat, is good. And that's where this cheese, as an example, or dairy can come in. I have tea every now and then. I haven't had any while I've been doing the Lion diet, but when I do carnivore, I'll have tea and I'll get some cream in it, and that's pretty nice to have. So, but the cons of that, first and foremost, it slows weight loss dramatically. If you're doing a carnivore diet and one of your goals is to lose weight, well, you have a lot of dairy in your diet and it's gonna slow that. Now, it's not just a calorie issue, but dairy just has this way of keeping people a little on the bloated side. If you need it to stay on the diet, then it's a good way to go. It's gonna help through that transition phase. So maybe that first month you can be a little more lenient and not expect as much weight loss, but it's still gonna help you stay on the diet. And that's the tough thing for most people in the first month. You can focus more on weight loss, second, third, and fourth month, and however many months you decide you wanna do something like this. But dairy really slows those results. And sometimes you don't mind giving in here or there to having some dairy because you're going to be able to keep up with carnivore that much longer if you have that one food in there, that one food group in there. One of the other problems that also seems to compromise the success of managing health issues, when people go to this type of zero carb eating and carnivore diet, one of the things they do it for is often to manage certain health issues. Maybe it's an autoimmune disorder of some kind. And dairy can complicate that issue. And I shouldn't say complicate it. It compromises the benefits you get of doing a carnivore diet for most people, a zero carb diet. So when you end up cutting that out of your diet, people just tend to feel better. And that's why I'm doing this strict version of this Lion diet. I tend to feel better when I stick to just red meat. When it comes to managing your health problems, this helps you get in tune with your diet because it's an elimination diet. This is one more thing you can eliminate from your carnivore diet. It will actually make you feel a little better. So something to keep in mind. Another drawback to having dairy or cheese is there's often trace carbs in it. If you have milk, there's sugar in that. So you can't really have milk on a carnivore diet, but you can have cream because usually high-fat cream doesn't have any added sugars. So there might be some trace carbs in there, but pretty small if there's any at all. The problem with that is if you're trying to go carb-free because you're fighting this addiction and you're having this little bit of carbs every now and then in your meat, it can make it more difficult because it's keeping those cravings alive. Remember, most people are doing this, I shouldn't say most people, lots of people do this to manage the sugar and carb addiction. It's one of the main reasons why I do it. I want to make sure I'm trying to keep those trace amounts of carbs and sugars in balance, because you can't 100% knock out carbs, but you can do the best possible way of doing it. That's the Lion diet. But, for some people, having the little bit of carbs in their diet, in those trace amounts of dairy, sometimes is what makes it manageable at first. Sometimes it keeps those cravings alive though. And that's the problem. If you find it's keeping the cravings alive, that's the difficulty. And that leads us to our next topic. People who keep dairy in their diet when they do carnivore tend to be a little addicted to it. It's like they're good without it for a while. They get to the point where they went off of it and then they try introducing it again. And before you know it, it's tough to quit. And it's weird. You've already gone through all the challenges and hurdles of doing a carnivore diet. And then you think, okay, I'm going to reintroduce something like this. Even some seasoned veterans have said that. People who've been doing it for years, and some people over a decade, some people even longer than that, they'll say if they have dairy, they'll crave dairy and they have a rough time giving up dairy again. And they go through these cycles doing that. And, but sometimes, if that's what you need to keep you on carnivore for a little bit longer, then, give into it, listen to your body. But what I found listening to my body is my body will always crave carbs. And when I convince myself it's okay to have a little bit of something here or there, that little bit of something can get out of control quick and it can go into a spiral down where it becomes a slippery slope and I just eventually go off this way of eating. Now I tend to do fine managing dairy because I'll have cheese or cream and that's usually the most of it. But it's still enough that when I cut it out, I miss it. And I go in phases where maybe once a month when I'm doing a regular carnivore diet, I'll have cheese, and I'll like make a weekend of it, you know, and I just have cheese here and I have cheese there. And especially if you're maintaining, then you're in a good spot. So you can do something like that. But that's pretty straightforward, you know, the good and the bad when it comes to dairy and cheese in a diet. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a pretty fun one to do. This is a question that comes up a lot when people starting down the carnivore path. And so it's pretty good to go over a topic like this because so many people wonder if are they cheating? Is it really one of those things that really strict carnivores won't do? But you know, other people started doing it because it's trendy. And this is, you know, it's one of those things that you have to learn to listen to your body and see if it helps or hurts your body. You know, does it cause any inflammation when you have dairy? And this is something that you can start paying attention to. And the best way to do that is cut it all out and then reintroduce it. Even if you decide, like I did carnivore all year, and then 9 months into it, I cut out all the dairy and went strict lion diet. You know, I can honestly say that cheese helped get me to that point where it was easy to do all year long from January till September. So I might not have gotten to September as easily as I did without dairy in there. So I think for most people, you know, it's good to keep the dairy in, but if you're dealing with some health problems, you may want to reconsider and go strict with no dairy. It was nice chatting with you over this. I hope you take care. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up and subscribed. We're gonna witness this weight loss challenge of mine and this fitness challenge as I continue to do these exercises every day and continue to lose weight. I'm losing about 1 inch a month on my waist, and I lost, you know, a good 80 pounds before I started this lion diet. But I hope you keep on tuning in and watching my progress. It's a pretty interesting thing, and as I've promised for a while, I'm gonna start doing some sections of the videos or maybe entire videos just on exercise and weights and cardio and some of the benefits of doing certain things like the way I'm doing it with the circuit training routine. And we'll see where this goes. I'm gonna have a new challenge coming up in January for a few months. I think I'm gonna make it a more restricted version of this lion diet for maybe January through March, where I'm gonna go down to maybe 2,000 calories a day. So something like that. And focus on weight loss at that point. The last few months have been more about building my metabolism. I wanted to follow with losing some weight. So we'll see how this goes, because the goal is to keep a healthy metabolism as I lose weight. Thanks a lot, and we'll touch base another time. Take care.